Many thousands of years ago, men and horses crossed paths. This gave birth to the advent of civilizations that conquered the world. These days, machines have almost wiped them out, but that's just an illusion. Because our planet in reality remains Planet of the Horses. Certainly, a horse is able to pass over obstacles. But when there are more than 10 obstacles, each over a meter high, and they only have a few minutes to overcome them, only a well-trained horse with a very experienced rider can find success. Let us tell you about show jumping.
Today we're going to learn how to make a horse jump over obstacles.
Horses don't jump by nature.
To find out where the control buttons are on a horse.
He has a remote control out there.
And to climb aboard a celebrity.
And presto, we stepped over.
The word concours means competition in French. That applies to Olympic kinds of sports. That means there is no gambling here, although bookmakers would be happy if you bet your money on the results of these competitions. But it's very difficult to correctly guess the perfect combination of strength and precision, of elasticity and agility, and to foresee how cohesive the horse and the rider will be.
Show jumping appeared as a result of both hunting and military practices. The horses must overcome 13 barriers without touching any of them, and to do it as quickly as possible. Seems like a very simple task, but this sport is one of the most exciting and has the privilege of calling itself an Olympic sport.
Show jumpers call the place where competitions take place the battlefield. A route is plotted through it. But it's not from point A to point B, as if it were a bus route. It's a gambit of barriers of various heights and complexities. The horses are not simply jumping. Sometimes they're required to conquer a high jump, or a long jump, or a particularly daring jump, where you can't see what exactly is hidden behind a solid wall, a water-filled trench, or, for example, a low but dangerous step. But regardless, the racehorses launch over them at the rider's command, displaying astonishing trust towards their human teammate.
You and I are watching show jump training. Show jumping was invented by humans, you could say, from scratch. Horses don't jump by nature.
Really? Like never?
Well, you can tell the difference between a horse and a cat. A horse is certainly able to jump over a log or a small ditch. But the horse is not built for high jumping because it's very difficult for it to land. It has massive joints, strong tendons, and it lands upon heavy, solid hooves, not soft claws and pads. But humans decided that horses needed to jump. It was necessary for war and was necessary for hunting. And it's become a very popular sport nowadays. Great skills are required to make a horse jump, get over various obstacles, not be afraid of them, and negotiate a complicated route of obstacles of different colors, different heights, and different materials, set in an unpredictable order.
Show jumping was included in the Olympics as far back as the second event of modern times, in the year 1900 in Paris. Such competitions had become extremely popular in the second half of the 19th century all over Europe. The mounted hunters of Belgravia had been developing show jumping, and in Russia, military cavalrymen had initially taken lead. Nowadays, professional athletes are trained in special institutes. For example, more than a few show jumping champions have graduated from the French National Riding School. It's no wonder, as France is the birthplace of the sport. It's worth mentioning that the higher the level of competition, the higher the show jumping hurdles which must be jumped over. So their height at the Olympic Games can reach up to 5 feet.
Look, look!
What? Yeah, the
Ooh.
horse knocked down the upper rail.
Wow,
What?
it knocked down a rail.
What happened? Yes, the rails are set in such a way that they are easily knocked down.
Does it hurt the horse?
This phenomenon is called a knockdown in show jumping. Horses have solid hooves and bandaged joints. Don't worry.
Go ahead.
Chestnut is the most common horse color. Black is the second most common, and red is probably the third. But jumping ability is totally unrelated to the color. Gray, Palomino, cream, or piebald horses can all jump equally well. And any breed of horse, Orloff or Terrick Trotter or Don Thoroughbred, can have a talent for jumping. But the most advanced, most successful jumpers in this sport are horses of German, Dutch, or Belgian breeds.
Meet Trakin Belarusian stallion Kulon. He came to us at a bright young age and demonstrated his ability to jump right away. He hated staying in the paddock, trapped behind the fence, so he soon showed us his talents. He jumped over 1.5-meter fences right off the bat. At that moment, we realized it made sense to train horses like him in show jumping. Now we have a choice to either leave him to be claimed by inexperienced riders. He is beloved for his personality and beauty, or find a worthy athlete who can use his natural talent for jumping and propel him into the world of elite sports.
Even though they're not light as a feather, they take off with such elegance. It's so great. How high is that? What do you think?
I guess it's 2 feet, about 2 feet.
Actually, not as low as it might seem. Well, for horses, it's not so.
I think you could leap over this height without training, no sweat. But I must remind you once more that a horse is not designed for jumping. They do that only at a human's request.
It appears as if jumping over obstacles is absolutely effortless. They're so big. But it's not true. The maximum height, which a horse clears by just a tiny bit, exceeds our human jumping records. So while the current world's achievement for people is 8 feet, it's just about 8'1" for horses.
And how does the process of training the horses go? Like, for example, one might bring their children to a club and they can see a race there. Like, you'll be riding like this, or show a rail to a woman and explain you should pass over like this. But how can horses understand an obstacle that they should either step over it or knock it down, but jump over it?
That's right. You can explain jumping to a human easily, but explaining it to a horse is much more complicated. First steps in show jumping begin with just from a pole lying on the ground. Yeah, and when a horse steps over it, we can understand how its genes react to the obstacle, right? And step by step, we go higher, higher, and naturally, as the barriers become higher over the years, they have nothing to focus on but getting ready to jump and moving how the rider requires them to when they land.
And how are the commands to jump given to a horse? Or does it understand itself that, whoa, there's an obstacle, let me...
Katya, he has a remote control out there. Just
You're
press
lying to me. I know it. Let them tell me the truth.
Everyone is either able or unable to handle it.
Okay, I want to learn how to handle that remote.
A twist, yeah.
I think if there was a remote control, half of the people out there would be the new Olympic champions. And naturally, there's a movement you perform while you're galloping. It's with your leg, a twist. A rider can affect the horse with a twist, using the part of their leg below the knee, the calf, as well as the bridle reins, and with the rider's own body weight. A rider's expertise consists of not only learning how to perfectly execute all the tricks, but also learning how to listen to a horse and understand it. Because unlike a PlayStation, a horse is not an inanimate machine, but a live creature. The most important thing while riding is to not irritate the horse. For example, I have discovered for myself that everything must go step by step, smoothly. He's a little nervous right now, rushing, hurrying. If I want him to calm down a little bit to make shorter steps, then I will try to turn the reins and slightly press my legs so the horse can concentrate. I'm doing this right now. You see, such small steps. Now he's supposedly to walk in a relaxed and open manner, approximately like this, yes. And I will try to bring him to a trot by positioning the head like this with the reins. Although I shouldn't jerk his heads up, it's just control, like this. I will try to bring him to a gallop the same way, like this, yeah. Now I must pat him for the job well done.
Shenki is a twister.
Yes. Actually, all that delicate control is necessary for abiding by the very simple rules of a competition. A mounted rider must execute a route within a preset time, and their horse must pass through all the obstacles on the first try without knocking down the upper rails of an obstacle or stepping into a water-filled trench. But it certainly can't be done perfectly every time, so fair judges tally up penalty points. A knockdown rail counts for 4 points. A horse stepping into the water means the same. There is 1 penalty point for every 4 seconds exceeding the preset time. There are also some other nuances of refereeing. Of course, to be a champion at the big competitions, you must do everything perfectly, without penalties. Often, more than one athlete achieves this. In this case, a jump-off is arranged. Everyone tied for the first place, pass another, shorter, but usually more complicated course.
Thank you very much for your detailed story.
Speeding up is just a matter of squeezing with your legs.
You know, to work with the spurs correctly, you must follow some rules. Yeah, I'm sitting now, and if you can tell, my spurs are not touching the horse's sides. Yeah? Because their spurs are an auxiliary element. The spurs, the riding crop, all of the rest is done with the legs. You work with the legs. If the legs are insufficient for you, you can level up. Look at how he reacts.
Yes, that means it's not cruel, not painful, not...
No wise.
It means a clearer designation of the same command.
11 months pass from the moment of conception with a foal. It stays with its mother for the first 6 months, and for the next year and a half, it's allowed to feed on the pastures to its heart's delight. And only at the ripe old age of 2 years old, the training begins. First of all comes the breaking in, that is, training a horse to get used to the fact that a person is sitting atop it. And later, jump training begins. So 8 or even 10 years can pass before the horse masters all that.
Computers are always getting faster and faster, but a horse, well, it used to take 10 years to be trained so it could compete, and nowadays it still takes the same 10 years. That means that the value of a horse is in its experience.
Let me wash your legs, sweetie. Okay, and the second leg?
Same as a human leaving the gym, a shower and a well-deserved rest awaits a horse after a training session. A horse weighing half a ton, in other words, not even the biggest one, consumes up to 11 pounds of oats and drinks 60 to 80 liters of water, or 6 to 8 buckets a day. Not the cheapest athlete's meal, I should say, although a daily horse ration in Russia is traditionally measured in garnish. It's an old Russian measure of volume, equaling a little more than 3 liters.
The prospects of European racehorse breeds are pretty rosy. The demand for them is growing with a rise in popularity of amateur events. But in order to prepare a truly classy racehorse, you need long training periods along with good pedigree, good health, etc. Basically, in this regard, equestrian sports splendidly reflect the social status and predictability of this or that state. That's because a person making the decision to train a horse for high athletic achievement plans his or her life in advance, not for a few days, or a few months, but a few years and even decades. And that person must be sure of their own as well as the horse's future.
Next, we will find out how a career in high-level competition begins and how to win the highest honors.
It turns out I rode a champion horse. Unbelievable.
Now I will tell you how to quickly saddle a horse for a horseback ride. First, you put a saddle blanket, a bit of soft padding, under the saddle. Then we pick up the saddle and approach the horse, always from the left. We hold the saddle in such a way that all the straps will be on the left side. We put it on the saddle blanket. We check it by pressing on the shoulder. Line up the saddle with the front part of the shoulder and the front leg. We unroll the girth, or cinch, the most important strap holding the saddle in place. Then we tighten it just firmly enough. Some clever horses hold their breath, so when they breathe out, the girth will be less tight. But we know that if the girth has slack in it, a horse takes the risk of the saddle rubbing on its shoulders, and a rider has the risk of finding him or herself on the ground. That's why the girth must be tightened well, so that if we put 3 fingers under it, it will press into them firmly. That should provide you with a comfortable and confident ride.
An athletic career in show jumping usually starts early, at about 5 years old. So by the age of 10, riders sit in the saddles as professional jumpers.
Maria just finished jumping a route on her favorite horse. Well, tell us, how long have you been jumping?
I've been jumping on him for 2 years, and in total for 3 years.
How easy is his disposition? How easy is it to make him jump?
Disposition, you need to find a common language with him to make him jump, and well, everything will go smoothly. If you find a common language, he bucks the saddle very strongly.
Well, that means that the landing...
No, right when you approach a barrier, it's like being bucked because it's very sharp, upward movement. The landing is actually very soft.
Like that, right?
But the push, yes.
Although it is too early to sit on an adult horse at the age of 5, it is worth starting from that age, with a pony. They practice this in a children's equestrian school, like the one our expert Alexander visited with his assistant Katya.
Anastasia, Alice, and I are saddling this horse Adventurous.
Oh, she's so sweet.
Introduce yourself.
The kids themselves do the majority of the work for the small jumpers, technical services, cleaning, saddling, leading them to the field.
Bye-bye. It was so nice to meet you.
Since the year 2000, the athletes of this club have won medals in competition on a regular basis, holding Russian championship titles in all kinds of equestrian sports, including show jumping.
You see, some horses will show that they are ready to trot sooner. The reins are pulled tight, their necks are raised. Here we go. But the children keep pace. Some horses are urged on, some hold in place. To stop a horse and make it, even if it's important and likes trotting, make it walk, even if it's impatient and likes trotting, to stop a horse and make it walk can be just as valuable as the opposite exercise.
To pacify a horse, so to speak.
Well, not exactly tame in this case. Wild horses have to be tamed.
But...
Riders have their own terminology. You send a horse if you ask it
yeah.
to go faster, or vice versa. You hold if you need it to slow down. Go ahead. Place the pole here.
Here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take a horizontal rail.
We'll take a... Do we need to stick it in the ground? No? Okay.
A bit closer.
Closer. Here we go.
Like this.
Perfect.
Children practice on ponies of many different breeds, but one of them demands our special attention. These are Welsh ponies. Fully grown horses by all parameters, just not very tall. On top of them, young riders usually practice show jumping.
Well, here you can...
Maybe you can show me how to do it?
Well, I guess some of these kids maybe will be so
At least something.
nice to teach you horseback riding.
Can you show me?
To start with, we take the reins in one hand like this.
Well, taking the reins.
The reins like this in one hand, the left foot in the stirrup.
Left one in the stirrup. Okay.
And on the count of 3, like 1, 2, 3, yes.
So once again, 1, 2. Oh,
Oh, voila.
this way.
Slow down.
Okay, slow down.
Slower.
Slower. Oh dear.
Hands lower and together like holding a glass. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Voila. We stepped over. Great.
There is a legend that almost 3,000 years ago, a Urartu prince named Manua, while riding on the back of a horse named Asivia, made a jump of 22 cubits. That's about 36 feet. A cuneiform narration of this extraordinary event was found on a tablet near Lake Van. The narration had been considered an exaggeration or even a fantasy until in Chicago, a Hungarian stallion named Chandler flew over a water-filled trench 37 feet wide and beat the 3,000-year-old achievement. This case teaches us that every athletic achievement will be exceeded sooner or later.
Oh, good job. You're such a good horse.
Well done, yes.
Okay, stop. Hold. Okay, I'm gonna dismount. She's certainly easier to dismount than a big horse. Thank you very much, Bridget. Such an incredible pony. But you're right, it's absolutely no easier than riding a big horse.
Well, of course.
Yes. You see, she competes and takes first prize.
What a sweetheart. She is. It turns out I rode a champion horse. Unbelievable.
Well, you've just ridden on her, but Maria wins prizes with her.
The gait in which a horse moves on the show jumping field subdivides into 3 speeds. One could say a horse in this event has a 3-speed gearbox. The moment they need to overcome an obstacle, the rider speeds up their horse so it can gain momentum and make an effective final push before hurdling an obstacle. Years of experience are needed to grasp all these intricacies. But how can you detect the passion and the ability to jump on horseback in yourself at the young age of 5? It's worth asking an accomplished adult athlete. Well, communicating with an animal is always, let's put it this way, wonderful. It's nice, and that's why you should always come and try, practice communicating with an animal before making a decision whether it's right for you or not.
Why did you choose this sport in particular?
I would say it a different way. It wasn't me who chose it, but it chose me. Because my dad brought me up and directed me to show jumping. We started with show jumping. I've tried triathlons too, but maybe it's not for me. So I did literally a few attempts at triathlons, but all the rest...
What's the difference? What did you lack for doing triathlons?
I wouldn't say I lacked anything. I could do everything at a triathlon, but the height set up to 4 feet. And at a certain age, I wanted to jump higher and higher and higher. Higher and more complicated jumps. And the complexity of the cross-country race obstacles, it seems to me, they didn't catch my attention as much as height.
There's no limit to the obstacles people have dreamt up in order to test the horse's willingness to obey in equestrian events such as show jumping, triathlon, or steeplechase. Sometimes horses are met with the most sudden and unpredictable obstacles. To that point, after World War II, a certain South American officer managed to establish a record in the horse's highest jump, which still has not been beaten. You can use Google to learn the names of the officer and the horse, but the record of 8 feet high remains second to none to this day. It's fitting that it was set by a horse nobody had any expectations for at all. He had tried racing, but hadn't shown any considerable speed. He had tried training for navigating obstacles in show jumping events, but he hadn't shown any notable results. Nonetheless, the owner still believed in this horse. And at the age of 19, the stallion managed to leap over an 8-foot-tall obstacle. And not only that, but he couldn't even see through the wall. He didn't know what awaited for him on the other side after he soared over this giant obstacle. That is to say, what immense trust horses must feel towards men when they are ready to literally jump into the unknown.